Does he stand by his statement, we're going through a very difficult recovery? And if so, on what basis does he consider an economy that's shrinking to be in recovery?
We are going through a difficult recovery. As I've said, it's two-speed at the moment. In our provincial industries in the South Island and our rural communities, they are experiencing growth. But certainly in our cities, it's been very difficult.
Why should New Zealanders believe him that we are in a recovery, when earlier this year he said that New Zealand was in a recovery right at the very time the New Zealand economy was shrinking by almost 1%?
Well, as I said, we had a good level of growth in Q4 last year. We had very good growth happening in Q1 this year. We had international tariffs and uncertainty around tariffs hit us on the second day of April. That impacted on our Q2 result. We're growing now and expected to grow stronger from this point onwards.
How much smaller is the New Zealand economy today than it was when he became Prime Minister?
Well, again, the former Prime Minister needs to understand this. He created the problem. You cannot increase spending by 84%, drive up inflation, drive up interest rates, put the economy into recession and raise unemployment. That is the consequence of your failed economic management. And I'd just say, for the $66 billion man who increased debt threefold, that we now write out a $10 billion interest bill each and every year, thanks to your mismanagement, we're sorting it out.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he stand by his statement that horticulture is crying out for young people? If so, is orchardist Paul Painter wrong when he says we're not crying out for staff at the moment and we don't have a lot of seasonal jobs?
Well, just unlike the member, I get out of Wellington most weeks and I actually get out and actually see the real economy and I see real businesses. And the number of people that I talk to that say, look, there are real opportunities for people out there. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, unemployment's ticked up a bit, but it's the same as what it has been over a 30-year average. It's significantly below what it has been over the last 15 years. And unlike that member, we're just not happy to actually be the party of people who don't work. We are the party of workers. And we want people to come off welfare and get connected to work. It's that simple.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. When he's been out and about, why hasn't he been talking to the businesses who say that hiring staff is not their primary constraint for growth, given that only 4% are saying that, whilst 63% of businesses, according to NZIER, are saying their real problem is not enough customers?
Well, because the economy has been in a recession caused by your reckless spending, caused by your government running up inflation and your government running up interest rates. You put the country into the biggest recession in 35 years. You created the longest COVID hangover of any in the Western world. You actually made sure that you tripled the debt, for goodness sake, and we now have a $10 billion interest bill. We're cleaning up the Labour government's mess. It's that simple.
If the dire current state of the New Zealand economy is all someone else's fault, why is it that the New Zealand economy shrunk by almost 1% at a time when other economies around the world that have been hit harder by Donald Trump's tariffs, many of whom had a higher rate of inflation at the peak of the global pandemic, have been growing faster than New Zealand?
In Q4 last year, this economy was growing. In Q1 this year, economic growth was increasing. In Q2 this year, our economy is a small economy, a trading economy, got smashed around by uncertainty associated with tariffs. It's now growing again in Q3. The growth in Q4 will step up. Their recovery is coming. As I said, it's been two-speed at the moment. We've got to make sure that we get growth coming through our cities, and that will come.
Can I ask the Prime Minister, does he remember, with respect to the policies that he inherited, that the then former Prime Minister had a huge sort of skybox burn up one night and got rid of all those policies? And how much more quickly could we have recovered if he had done that when he was much earlier in his career?
Well, I agree with the member that there must be tremendous regret from the Labour government that had an absolute majority in the last 3 years and did very little with it, delivered nothing, increasing debt, spending and borrowing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. What recent reports has she seen on the economy?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
The Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has just released its latest decision on the official cash rate. The committee has decided to reduce the OCR by 50 basis points. This is the 8th OCR reduction since August last year. At that time, the OCR was 5.5%. It is now 2.5%.
Supplementary. What role does the OCR play in the economy?
Mr Speaker, the OCR plays a very important role in the economy. It is the key tool the Reserve Bank uses to influence economic activity in both good times and tough times to meet its target for low, stable inflation. The level of the OCR and expectations about its future track affects the interest rates paid by households and businesses. Those interest rates in turn affect economic activity. Households have disposable income to spend and businesses can borrow to invest. Today's announcement represents stimulus that will help push along the economic recovery.
Supplementary question. By how much have mortgage rates fallen?
Mr Speaker, since the Reserve Bank started loosening in August last year, floating mortgage rates have fallen in line with the OCR. Everyone's circumstances are different, of course, but let me give one example. Assuming today's reduction is passed on in full, a family with a 25-year $500,000 mortgage would have minimum repayments $400 less a fortnight than they were in the middle of last year. Fixed rates have also fallen, and it's important to remember that many fixed-term mortgage holders are yet to roll off higher rates and refix lower. So past OCR reductions, as well as today's reduction, will continue to flow through to households over the remainder of this year and beyond.
To the Minister of Finance, is her economic plan the reason the economy is smaller now than it was when she took office? If not, why not?
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr Speaker, no. The economy is where it is now because harmful and painful inflation in 2021 and 2022 and 2023, fuelled by reckless government spending, had to be brought down over time with high interest rates. As I said in my previous question, interest rates affect economic activity. New Zealand experienced a deep, protracted downturn. We are coming out of that downturn, but the recovery has been difficult and not helped by international events. The member might want to look at the actions of the previous government.
Supplementary. If she is taking credit for the latest interest rate cut, will she also take responsibility that this cut is because of a stagnating economy caused by her government's inaction?
Mr Speaker, I have taken no such credit.
Supplementary. Is her economic plan to talk about growth, hope interest rates come down and house prices grow?
No, Mr Speaker. Our approach as a government is to address the underlying foundations for growth, which includes low and stable inflation to create a lower interest rate environment, having responsibly managed books, driving reforms across the areas that have held New Zealand's economy back for too long, including low rates of educational achievement, Byzantine consenting processes, excessive regulatory burdens, and a dire approach to overseas investment. These are the reforms our government is driving. And I would like to play the same game that the member played with me yesterday and quote someone from the mood of the boardroom who said, "I find it difficult to reconcile responsibility for the policies of the last government with critiques of the current government's attempts at managing the consequences of those policies."
My question is to the Minister for Social Development and Employment. What is the estimated reduction, if any, in the number of people receiving job seeker support because of the proposed parental income test for 18 and 19-year-olds?
The Honourable Louise Hudson.
Mr Speaker, this policy is about fairness and personal responsibility and our expectation that all 18 and 19-year-olds will be in employment, education or training. I'm advised that around 4,300 fewer 18 and 19-year-olds will be eligible for the job seeker support as a result of the parental assistance test, which has two parts, the parental income test and the parental support gap test. Where parents have the means to support their 18 and 19-year-old, taxpayers shouldn't be asked to do so instead. The parental income test was not included in Budget 25, which means more 18 and 19-year-olds are eligible than would have been. Mr Speaker, we are determined to reverse the trend we inherited, which saw people under the age of 25 on JobSeeker spend an average of 18 more years on benefit. This has been 49% longer than in 2017.
Why has she incentivised parents on the threshold of the income requirement to reduce their hours just so 18 and 19-year-olds can access JobSeeker?
Mr Speaker, we haven't. What we have done is said that parents with 18 and 19-year-olds should be supporting their children to ensure that they are in further education, training or a job.
Why should parents who are receiving Working for Families for a younger child have to choose between receiving the help they need or giving it up so their dependent 18 or 19-year-old can access JobSeeker?
Well, Mr Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe that all parents want the best for their children and to ensure that their 18 and 19-year-olds are set up for a great life, which means they're in employment, education or training.
Why has she made it so that two parents who are both working 27 hours each on the minimum wage can now work 11 hours less a week and yet be financially better off?
Because, Mr Speaker, what we don't want to see is the welfare dependency that we saw blow out in the 6 years of the previous government. As I said, a 47% increase in the length of time a young person under 25 would go on to spend on welfare. It's not good enough, which is why we are making sensible policy changes to interrupt a life for young people who should not be stuck on welfare.
How can she claim that this change will incentivise young people when her government has increased university fees, increased youth unemployment, cut the apprenticeship boost and made life even harder for working Kiwi families struggling with the cost of living crisis?
Well, I reject the comments that member makes, and the Prime Minister today, for I don't know the 100th time, the 1000th time, outlined a lesson in economics, which is why we are where we are. And my concern is the welfare dependency that we inherited, where we don't accept it is good enough for a young person to spend 18 future years of their life stuck on welfare.